So we'll get started. Where we're going, where we have left to go. Right now we have products, and so I'm showing you the finished product. Obviously, our store has images. Right now we don't have this shopping cart feature, so we're going to implement the shopping cart feature. Just as a foreshadow, this is a view model. Okay, so we're going to be implementing a view model. When we add products, we can do things like this. Okay, we can, once we're in the shopping cart, we can update quantities. You have to have that many available books. You know, if there's not 10 books available, you can't update 10 books. You can update quantities. So we have a shopping cart. It is a session shopping cart, meaning I can click around. I don't lose my cart. Okay, there's a little cart icon up here with a visual indicator showing you how many items are in your cart. This is a little something I haven't taught yet. It's called the view component. We're going to implement that view component. So we have a view model, we have a view component, and we have orders. And so ultimately what that means is, you can clear the cart, but you can proceed to checkout. You're going to need to log in. This is pretty simple, authorization rules. Provide an address and actually place the order. So this is also a view model. Place the order. Now we have orders, and we can, so this is kind of a order summary page and viewing the orders, and this is on a per user basis. So we are able to retrieve the orders that user has. And it obviously clears out our shopping cart. I guess worth saying here, if I add one item to my session and I kind of close my session and maybe reboot it, ultimately this is just stored in RAM. So in theory, by closing the browser and reopening the browser, it clears the session, and there you go, it clears the session. Again, I think the next step after you get past session state is you have to get into persistent cookies. And actually, what could you do here? You could save even a temporary cart in a database. Data is cheap, storage is cheap. Save it in a database. I'll tell you a very real world example. I do my groceries on Walmart. I don't know if you guys grocery shop in person or if you whatever. I prefer Walmart will actually deliver your groceries. I'm a big fan. I will load up my shopping cart on the web browser, and then I will go to the mobile app on my phone, and right away the shopping cart isn't there. But give it about 10 seconds to do a database lookup, and even my temporary shopping cart will be retrieved on my mobile app. Okay, so if you're doing like a legitimate e-commerce website, you're not just persisting in your server RAM. Okay, you're going to go ahead and save that off into a database based on your user ID, and then you can hit that database and pull back, persist that. You're not even worried about cookies. Okay, we talk about persistent cookies being long-term storage. No, I'm talking about saving it to a disk, to a hard drive disk in a database somewhere. That's like the kind of the gold standard, if you will. So that's where we're going. It's a fair amount of code, and I'm not gonna maybe describe everything so technically. Otherwise, we would be here for 5 hours. But as I do, I'll try and describe the code as I go. I am going to make a shopping cart controller. And we're going to bring in the DB context here, the application DB context. Obviously, we're going to be able to hit the database to work with products and things of that nature. And it doesn't have to be a unique session key, but we are going to create sessions to persist data. And so giving that a key, a text value is pretty simple. And then here again, this is called the constructor. Obviously, it's a method, same name as a class. And I prefer the more modern primary constructor that condenses this. I like this syntax, a little bit cleaner, a little bit less code. You got some syntactic sugar, if you will. And then I'm going to write a method. I'm going to write a method, and it's going to require a little bit of boilerplate. You guys remember the iSession interface is where a lot of the magic happens, and to work with session state. And so there's a little bit of boilerplate code to save objects into session state that I like working with. So I'm going to make a folder called extensions. I'm going to add, misclick. Add a folder called extensions. These are for extension methods. Close that. And then I'm going to make a new class, add a C# class called session extensions. This is verbatim out of the book. And this is what we talked about a little bit during the lecture. And this is going to enable us to save C# objects into the server's memory. Remember, we have to kind of like take our object and convert it into JSON to save the JSON as a string is the process. And so let's bring in this using, and this needs to be a static class to host these static methods. So basically two methods, one called setObject, one called getObject, and these are extension methods. They are extending the iSession interface. So now we have new methods. Any class that implements iSession, you can now call these methods on that class, which enables me back in my cart to save a cart into session. Okay, so that's ultimately what I want to do is I want to save a cart into session. And the code to do that, once you have these extension methods set up, is actually quite simple. I'm going to delete this index method, and I'm just going to write this little helper method called saveCart. And notice here is a session object. Obviously, the session object implements iSession. Therefore, we can call setObject, and we're going to pass in a shopping cart. Notice the shopping cart is a type of cart view model. Right, so our data type for our shopping cart, we haven't created this. Let me go ahead and create my folder for my view models. And Nia pointed out the other day, you could put view models as a subfolder under models. And so what's the organizational pattern here? That is a valid place to put view models. You could also put it in the root. For this sake of this example, I'll just put it in the root. But I do think it makes sense to put it as under models as well, but just for clarity and for the sake of this, I'm going to put my cart view model inside of this view model. Are you guys getting comfortable with view models? Like you understand their purpose? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Domain?
A way of sorting models to be easier to work with on these.
Yes. It's literally in the name. It is the data that you need for a page. What is the data you need for an individual page? It's a view model. If it's the data you need for a database table, that's called a domain model, or what we've just been calling, our models in our model folder. So if I look at my view model, and again, the idea here is to start with the end in mind. What is the data we need for a page? And so if I would look at a if I look at this page, which is a shopping cart, right? If I look at my shopping cart, what data do we need here? These are the properties of our field. Obviously, we have a bunch of shopping cart items. So there's cart items, individual cart items. There's a subtotal, there's a tax, there's an order total. And so this is the information that we would use to create our view model. If I kind of throw all that out here, here's our list of cart items. Remember cart items? This class is a domain model because this is a join table, as I called it yesterday. Okay, it's our join table. So we have to create this, a subtotal, a tax, a total, an item count, and a Boolean for is empty. So this is our cart view model. Now our cart controller, let's import, we need using. So now, let's see, using one too many data view models. There we go. So we bring that in, so cart view model is now recognized. And as we go down a rabbit hole, now this is a domain model, so let's go back to our models and add a class that is a cart item. And cart item, if we go back to our UML diagram or we actually go to our database table, you'll see what a cart item has, but it has a product ID reference to the products table. So this is a foreign key, a product name, a price, a quantity, an image URL, and a total price is the price times the quantity. So obviously a cart has a list of cart items. Here is an individual cart item. A cart item has to reference a product we have in our database. Actually, if I kind of go back here, hi.
And when you use that, can you come down?
Can we use a what?
When you get a second, can you come down?
Sure, it's going to be a couple hours. Is that right? Okay, cool.
You can take a break.
That we can. We will.
Sorry.
You're all right. But I'm just getting going. I'm not ready for a break. Let's hit the one too many database. This was my shopping cart demo. Tables. Oh, cart item is not mapped into a database table. Excuse me. This is cart item. Our join table is not cart item. I got that crossed. That's order items. Order items is our join table. Cart item is actually not reflected. You could put a not mapped attribute on this. Actually, you'll probably need to put a not mapped because there is no database table. So this is actually required. You need this not mapped attribute so that Entity Framework will not try and create a database table. There's no need for that. This is simply used by our view model. And let's bring in a using statement. So that's a recognized type. Okay, that brings us all the way back. All this had to go down the rabbit hole a little bit so that we can save a cart. Now our cart view model can be saved into session. And again, remember, it's HTTP context to save a cart into your RAM, into your server's RAM. And then I'm going to write another method to save the cart, right? So this is a saving cart operation. Let's write a method to read the cart. So if that saves it, here's another one to read it, right? So save cart versus get cart. get cart will read the server RAM out of the server RAM. Remember, the way that session works is it creates a cookie for you with a session ID in it. So that's automated. The server will send that session ID down to the client in a cookie. And so the client sends that back to the server, sends that session ID back to the server, and the server will read that out on a per user basis. And if it exists, it'll read it out of RAM. Otherwise, it'll instantiate an empty cart. And now we're ready for our index method. So now that we've got a way to save a cart and to read the cart, let's just, when the user goes to the cart page, to the index method, let's just get the cart out of the RAM and let's send that cart to the view. Okay, so pretty simple. Now that we've created a way to save the cart, get the cart, let's then, now that we've got that, inside of a view, we're going to add a folder called cart. Rename cart. And let's create the index. Right click, add a view called index. And this is a strictly typed cart view model. Now the reason this data type isn't there is because our view imports needs a using one-to-many demo view models, right? Because our view models were not in models. If I would have made it a subfolder, I would have had to say models.viewModels. But now you can see, now that's a recognized type. We can use a cart view model. Again, I'm not going to explain every line. I think you guys have kind of got it by now. We got Tailwind classes, a little conditional. If there's a temp data message, display that temp data message. If there's temp data error, display that error. If the model is empty, then say your cart is empty, give them a link to add products. So if the model is empty, otherwise you're going to display the information in the model. And that's a big chunk of code to kind of look at what are we doing here. We're looping over, we've got some divs, nested divs. We have an unordered list. We're looping over each of the items. That's a cart item. We're looping over each of the cart items, displaying the image, if there is an image, or if there's not. If there's not an image, display one thing, otherwise display the image. Then you're displaying the total price, the product name, right? So we're looping over each product, displaying the product name, displaying the price. A little form here to update the quantity. We have to write this method, right? So if there's this is the cart controller, right? We need to go into the cart controller and allow them to update the quantity of that item. We need to write another method to remove that item from the cart. And then a little button to clear the cart. So some just different method calls, like 3 method calls. Update quantity, subtract quantity, whatever. Clear the cart. And then another div for your item count, your tax, your total, and a link to checkout to actually place an order. Okay, so that's a good chunk of the page with one last div at the very bottom that's just taking you back to the product index. that says continue shopping. So just another link down here at the bottom. Okay, so that's cart controller. Now we should be able to at least navigate there, but we haven't actually saved the cart yet. Remember save cart. If I go back to my products, because that's how this starts to all link together. If I go to index, and here is my cart add to cart method. Okay, so to actually put something in the cart, which we haven't done that yet, that's where we need to actually write this add to cart method in my product controller. So we did a read operation before we did write. So let me go back to the controller. Not the product, the cart controller, excuse me. And I'll bring in my cart controller underneath index. Here's our add to cart. Now this comes from product. Remember, we'll be sending in a product ID and a quantity coming from this form. So here is our product ID. It's coming from a hidden field. And the quantity by default is just 1. We're adding in 1. So adding in a product ID coming from the hidden field, and the default, you're just adding 1 at a time. Okay, you can see what we do is we look up the product. So this is an important step, right? If you just follow along, send the product ID in from the form. This is coming from the product page. Send the product ID in, hit the database, look up the product, make sure the product is found, read your empty cart, see if that item already exists in the cart. If you already have that product, you're just adding 1 to it. You're just adding 1 to the quantity. If the existing item, if it doesn't exist, or if it's not null, if it does exist, then we just update the quantity by 1. If there is an existing item, then we update the quantity by 1. Otherwise, we add a new cart item with that product name, that product price, that quantity, and that image URL. So we are adding cart items, individual cart items, to the cart. We call save cart. Remember, save cart puts it in RAM. We save temp data that says that product is added to cart. So you should see that in the temp data message. And then we return a redirected action. So at the end of this, we go to index CSHTML on your cart. So this essentially loads your index CSHTML. Fancy way. It's a fancy way of, sending you to the index method, which the index method does this. This is our index method. Okay, so now we should be able to add an item, and let's save and let's see what breaks. We should be able to add an item to the cart, and then we should be able to see our cart. Okay. So products. Now, I've got my old one running still, so let me close that one down so I stop running the old one. because they're probably running on the same port. So now let me run this new one that I'm coding, not the finished product. Pretty easy to tell the difference because this one actually has product images.
What?
So /product, and if I click add, okay, session has not been configured for this application on request. Simple. I just didn't configure my program CS. Remember, there's basically 3 method calls to configure sessions and enable them on the server. And remember, the key thing on this is that you have to do this. This is all middleware, so the order matters. You can't do this out of order. Otherwise, you have to be able to read the data out of RAM before you hit the routing, right? So this kind of enables sessions on the server. And then we have to say app.use session after our static files, right? So brought in 3 lines here. This enables sessions, and then use session before map default routes. So that should begin to fix that problem, if I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, obviously we need our products link /product will take us there. Add, okay, there's our shopping cart. So we're reading from a view model. You could see that it is maintaining session state. If I went back, right, and I clicked add here, and it cleared out my cart, okay, that's what normally happens. Okay, state would not persist. But now we have session state enabled. So all good there. I'm gonna update my my nav links inside of my underscore layout. And this is product controller index. This will just say products. And this will ultimately be my orders. I'm going to have to change a little bit of that. Okay, so now we have products, add products, add. If I add the same one, the quantity is being updated because it's determining that the existing product is already there, so it just updates the quantity. All right. Couple more methods would be updating the quantity and clearing the cart. These are going to be in my cart controller. Methods are simpler. So let me start condensing these. Condense, collapse, I should say. On the cart index view, on the Razor view, we have a link already that calls update quantity. It passes in a product ID and a quantity from the form. Just to show that again. Here is a form that calls update quantity on the cart controller. It is a post method. It has a hidden field that holds the product ID. and it has a input name of quantity that sends in the quantity into right here, and that sends the product ID into right there. So that form sends that in. That's like the next chapter. The next chapter talks about binding the views to your methods by the name. So you're getting a little, okay, so get the cart, find the item by its product ID, update the quantity, save the cart, send you back to the index view. Okay, so that's update quantity. And then we have another link to remove an item from the cart. So pretty simple method here. Read the cart, read the product. If the product isn't empty, remove that from your items list. Resave the cart, redirect you to the index view. Right? So that's the update quantity. This is the remove link. So these two links right here, we've now coded the controller actions for those. Last but not least, clear cart. Let's clear the cart. Clearing the cart right there. Clearing the cart calls the HTTP context session remove method. Talked about that during lecture. Passing in the key. So you just clear out that key for that user and redirect you home. Okay. Now I'm just going to reboot because I wrote a whole lot of C# there. But let's just test our cart methods that we just wrote. By the way, making your own shopping cart from scratch is pretty cool. I think. Pretty geeky cool. But if I'm ever taking a web development course and you don't make your own shopping cart, what are we doing with? Anyways, add a product, update the quantity, click on update. Notice I did see the redirect, right? Update the quantity, redirect. Remove an item, that works. Clear the cart, browse products, add. A simple fix would be just because you click add doesn't direct you to the cart. I think that probably just adding a product, you would just see the little piece there. Yes, Anna.
Is this like our own cart that? Oh, okay, there it is. I was gonna say that in like regular shopping carts, you could in the detail section you could do the quantity there.
Yeah.
Say how much you wanted.
Yeah. So the next piece is we have to actually make an order, right? We've got a shopping cart. That shopping cart is saved into session state. Now we get to place an order, and that's where you actually tie in the user, right? The user has many orders. So we're now ready to place orders. Let me see what else I'm forgetting. I think that's... Let me go back here. I got to look at this. Index page, remove from cart, update quantity, clear cart. So there is a checkout method that says proceed to checkout. So if I go back to products, I click on add. So this is cart checkout method. which is obviously not implemented. Let's take a break. I got 1:15. Let's come back in 15 minutes. So we are resumed, and what we're doing is we are coding the checkout method on the cart controller, and really just sending you to another page. If I go to cart controller, the one thing is we do want to be logged in at this point. I mean, you can build a cart and not log in, but if you're actually going to buy something, you should be logged in. So you've seen this before, but you put this little authorize, and that's really nice because if you're not logged in, it'll redirect you to the login page. So this is part of identity. Get the cart. Remember, this is really, when it says cart, this is a cart view model, right? And then send that cart to the checkout Razor view, right? So we need to create the Razor view under cart. This is cart controller. Let's add a view called checkout. Checkout CSHTML. And just as before, this is the same kind of cart view model. Okay, so kind of start out here, try and piece it together because there's a big old div on the outside. Fair amount of code, but I like to explain it piece by piece. So the first innermost div, the first child div, let's just bring that in. So the outer grid, the first div, we could see a method to place an order. We got shipping information and a text area for the user to just put in their address, right? So that's the one piece of information that was left out, is like we're going to get address information. So you collect that here. Or if you're not ready to place an order, we give them an option to go back to the cart, which is the index method of the cart controller. That's our first child div, right? Place the order, link, back to cart, link, one or the other, you know, as far as what you could click. The second div, again, this is a big one. So I'll just bring it in. The second child div is really the rest of the code on this page. Starts here. Loops through the cart items, puts them in an unordered list. Each cart item's in a list item. Again, displays the image, the product name, a little Razor quantity times price. So the quantity, it'll show the quantity, and then it'll show a little X, and then the price, and to give you the total price. Subtotal, tax, total. I almost don't love this because it goes from one screen to the next, and it almost seems like on this next screen we just collect the shipping information. I mean, I get it. In a shopping cart, it's very wizard-like. You get the product information, and then you go to the shipping information. I just don't have much shipping information, so it almost seems like we could just put the shipping information on the prior page and skip over this step, and then just give them a place order, right? So let's stop this, boot it up. Okay, let's just go products. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna have to log in, obviously. Add a product. Proceed to checkout. We're not logged in. I don't have this styled. Again, just tailwind this out to style it. And I have not registered a user. So let me go ahead and register my Gmail. Click here to confirm. Oh, we're going to go deeper into identity. And so for now, that's what it is. And I'm not auto logged in, right? So let's go ahead and log in now that I put that in there. Okay, now I'm home. Let's add to cart. Okay, we're still persisting our cart. Proceed to checkout. Okay, now we're logged in and we can get to this page. And we just got to code the place order. Back to cart link should work. Proceed to checkout. Put in an address. Now we're going to actually write this method, the place order method that is part of the cart controller. Now place order is a post. We have to be logged in to place an order. And this is a good method to go through. Because you remember, there's really two tables. There's the orders table, and then there's the order items, right? So order and order items. Because an order has a bunch of items in a list. So in the cart controller, high level, this is a post method. HTTP post, you have to be logged in to do it. This helps cross-site script, anti-forgery. It's a security attribute. You put them on your posts. Best practice. I see it all over the place. Notice we bring in the shipping address. That's the only new information that we got from our last view. It's an async method. Get the cart, right? Get the cart out of memory. Get the user ID, right? Because an order belongs to a user. So you guys have seen this line before. To read the logged in user, looks just like this. Make sure that there is a logged in user, of course. That's not too hard. Create an order object, right? The order object, remember the model has a user ID and a list of order items, a shipping address, a status, a total, an order date. So back to our, why'd I change? Cart controller, cart item. I'm crazy. Let's close that. Cart controller. I was on it. My gosh, I'm blind. Okay, create an order object. Pretty simple to create an order object. But now we need to add items to our list, right? Our order item list, order items. So for each cart item in the items collection that's in the cart, add an order item, add a new order item to the order item list that has a product ID, a quantity, and a price. So again, remembering our order items, this is auto-generated. An order ID and a product ID are the foreign keys. So these are the important things that you need, an order ID and a product ID. Where's that order ID? It must be generated as part of the order object. It's going to assume auto increment that. Of course, it will auto generate order ID here. That's what it is. It's auto auto creating that. So an order ID will be created. And then it will be assumed on the order item appropriately. Okay, so we loop over the cart items, add each item to the list of order items, subtract the quantity of available in stock, and add the order to the orders collection. So to me, what's interesting here is you are adding an order to the order collection, and it will save both your order object and your order items object. It'll actually do saves to two different tables, right? And then clear the cart and redirect to the order confirmation page. So I don't have the order confirmation page coded, but nonetheless, let's add a product. I just want to show you how one save method will save to two different tables, because that's definitely new. Products. Let's go ahead and add products, add. Let's log in with my Gmail. And products, add. I need to have that little cart icon. I don't have my cart icon wired up yet. Proceed to checkout. 25 Rankin Lane is my address. Place order. This crashes, but it should do the database save because it got all the way to the redirect. And notice the order ID is 1. So that's a good indication. If I go to my orders table, I've got my first order, today's date, the total amount, my user ID, and the shipping address. Status 0 means pending. And if I go to my order items, which is my join table, order ID is 1. So here's my order ID is 1. Quantity is 1, whatever that is in my product. So I've got one quantity of product 1. I've got a quantity of 2 for product ID of 2. So our orders table is working and our orders items table is working. We are on the order confirmation page. So back to the order controller. Cart controller. Cart controller, order confirmation. We are almost out of the cart controller. Of course, to have an order confirmation, you got to be logged in. You send in the order ID. We look up the user who's logged in. We do a database lookup. We're looking up out of the orders table, with all of the order items, and then this is include the first order items table and the products on that order item. So this is like looking up out of 3 tables. This is like a join from 3 tables. You're looking up the orders table and the order items and the products associated with that order. So this is a join from 3 tables where the order ID is 1 and the user ID equals the user ID. And then return that order to the view. So order confirmation is a view that we need in the cart Let's add a view, order confirmation. This data type is an order object. Your order has been placed successfully. Thanks for your order. We'll just walk through. It's a big code chunk, but we'll just walk through it line by line. So here's model ID order number 1. So it's order number 1. Get the order's date out of the object. Get the status out of the object. Get the shipping address. This is a table, right? So it's an HTML table. It is showing you all the products, the quantity, the unit prices, and the total. So we're looping over our order items and putting each order item into a table row, into a TR. Then there's a footer, table footer, with the total in the footer. And then some links to go back to your products page or to your order index. We don't have this order index. That's a little bit more to go. So all that, now we should be able to see the order confirmation. I think 2 more things and then we're done. Products, add, proceed to checkout, log in, 25 Rankin Lane, place the order. Here's our order confirmation, order ID of 2, status of pending, continue shopping, view all orders. Okay, so I don't even remember coding this. Oh, you know what? This was coded on the first video like a month ago. The order controller. However,
Are these your orders?
well, that's what I need to look. Let's go to the order controller. And it's not. These are all the orders. See that? So let's update the order controller to get the
Orders
for the logged in user. So this, read the user ID and get the orders where the user ID of the logged in user, including the user and the order items. This needs to be an async method, which it is. What are you unhappy about?
I think it
Was
just
it
does that
purple?
until you build.
Until you build.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So we just refactored that to just, instead of, getting all the orders for all the users, which was there before, now we're just getting the logged in user.
Okay.
And so I only have one user, but when I create a second user, if I register my rankin.edu, okay, sure, click here to verify. Let's log in my Rankin account. I go to my orders, you can see it's empty, right? But if I log out and log in my Gmail, and I go to my orders, this guy has 2 orders. Again, I don't think my CRUD operations are where I want them to be, but it looks like this is all from before. This is all my, it does look like without the tailwind, it's all working. Okay. The last piece the last piece to bring in here is that little shopping cart icon up in the nav bar. And I found a new way of doing this that I hadn't done before. And so I will admit, this is relatively new to me. But it's kind of neat. So what I did was I made a folder called View Components. Cart count view component. Let's add a class. Cart count view component. And this view component has one method called invoke, and I need to add a using statement, which is using one too many demo extensions using view models. Let's see. Oh, I need to inherit from view component. There we go. So I have a parent now, a view component. And because, let's just explain view components in .NET and VC. I think the idea is just making reusable components similar to, think of view components as a super powered partial views. While a partial view is just a snippet of HTML, a view component contains its own logic and data fetching capabilities. They are perfect for widgets or reusable UI pieces that appear on multiple pages, like a nav menu, a shopping cart summary, hello, shopping cart summary, or a login status panel. So instead of just, I guess the idea is instead of just having HTML, they have some actual logic capabilities like fetching data and writing some C#, which you can see, what are we doing here? We're fetching data out of our, well, not out of our, yes, it is our view model, but inside of our session state. It is a view model saved in session state. So ultimately, that's the item count is the number that we want to display in our little icon. So back in our layout, let's just close all tabs and let's just save everything. Save it all. Save all, close the tabs. So I can bring it back to our layout. So inside of this div, this is in our nav bar, so inside of this div here, but before the button. So remember, on small, extra small devices, this is hidden, but as soon as you're on a medium screen or bigger, you see this in a block level element. Here is my shopping cart. So this is Here's a link to my cart controller. And in a screen reader, this will say view shopping cart. Here's the SVG of the cart. And then here, this invokes my cart count component. Cart count component. By the name here, the convention is this right here. This is my cart count view component. So if I stop, and so that's essentially going to get the shopping cart quantity out of the now views. There's one more piece that I'm forgetting here. Views, home, components, default, CSHTML. Because I haven't done this before, I remember there's one more piece. I thought there was 3 pieces. I showed you 2. And this is the 3rd piece. I got to remember where it's at. So I got to look for views, home, component. Got to find views, home. It's not there. Views, shared components. That's where it's going to be. Views, shared components. There it is. Cart count. There it is. One more piece that I forgot. So let's bring that in. So shared. Again, this is the convention here. We're going to add a folder called components. Add a folder cart count. Default CSHTML. Add a view default CSHTML. And this is just a little bit more, essentially, if you will, this is the shell. We've got an outer span, and then we've got an inner span, and then this just displays the integer. The int is the model, so that's the number, and then this returns the number. To kind of have an outer and an inner piece of CSHTML. Again, kind of like partial views, it says, but partial views on steroids. And there's our cart with a quantity. And as soon as you update the quantity, boom. Awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Never mind. I enjoyed this one. I realize this is just a whole lot of me coding and not you guys. So thank you for allowing me to go through it. But I think making your own shopping cart is kind of a cool exercise that really brings a lot of things together. And hope you guys enjoy it as I did. I'll stop here. Any other questions? 1 hour video.